Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuouki Demon of the Fleeting Blossom. We are still on Heisuke's route, and we just had a meeting with Kazuma, a chance meeting, and he's going to help us deal with the Furies. So let's see how that pans out. You can just sit back, relax, and let me read you a story. Heisuke frowned, none too pleased about having Kazuma around, but there was no denying the demon's skill. The three of us searched the city, but found no more of the Shinsegumi's Furies. Where'd they go?
I can't find them anywhere. There are a lot of them, and the streets are practically empty. I don't know where they all went.
Have you considered that perhaps you were merely a terrible investigator?
Oh, come on.
Clearly, I should have conducted the search on my own. No doubt I would have found them already.
Well, then why haven't you when you were with us? Why didn't you guide us, huh?
Yeah, well, I didn't ask you to stick around. You want to go off and find them on your own? Fine by me. And go get stuffed while you're at it.
Calm down, you guys. We still have to find Sanan. With their history, it wasn't surprising Kazuma and Heisuke would have trouble getting along, but the level of tension between them was so high, it was difficult to breathe. Chill out, guys. We got work to do. Their bickering continued in the form of under-the-breath insults and mutterings until we returned to the Shinsengumi mansion. Guys, over there! Is that Sanan and Sen? What are those two doing talking together?
What? Why would a demon princess have anything to do with a fake?
Had Sen come to see me? I froze, stunned. Indistinct speech from Sanan there. Sen indistinctly, angrily replying. I was too far away to hear what they were saying, but it sounded as if they were arguing. Just as I began wondering what they could be arguing about, Sanan suddenly leaned forward and wrapped his arms around Sen. What? Kazuma, he's touching your baby mama. What?
What in the...
I don't... Now they were... kissing? I glanced over at Heisuke. He looked just as confused, and more than a little disgusted. Clearly neither of us knew what to make of this strange scene before us, but this was clear. The fear and hate in Sen's eyes left no doubt that this was not a romantic encounter. She collapsed to the floor, and as she lifted her head, I saw something red fall from her lips. Ah, he was giving her the water of life. Was that blood?
Oh my, I didn't expect to see you here. Have you come to witness her last moments before she becomes a fury?
No, Sanan, don't tell me you made her drink the water of life.
What?
No, of course not. I've no need for that any longer. Anyone who drinks my blood will become a fury under my command. I am no longer a normal fury. I have drunk blood with no thought to whether it was right or wrong, and it has granted me new strength. I have been chosen.
So he's a head vampire now. His voice shook slightly, with the unmistakable tremor of ecstatic madness. I didn't know how much of what he said was true, but... There was no denying that Sen was in pain. Sanan, why did you do this to Sen?
Isn't that obvious? She is to be the glorious leader of a kingdom of furies, in name at least. A demon who has been overcome by the blood of a fury. She will symbolize the fate of all demons. Enough.
His voice was a low growl.
Enough of this crap.
His voice tore through the air with the naked fury of a bolt of lightning.
You filth. You disgusting animal. How dare you even touch a pure-blooded demon?
One was about to bear his child. Kazuma's hands twisted in the white-knuckled fists.
You are nothing, a fake. I'll tear you to pieces and scatter them to the four winds.
He roared with fury, then leapt towards Sanan. Heisuke did the same. Suddenly, Sen stood in front of them. No, Sen, don't be controlled. Oh wow, she looks good in that pose. She had her sword up in a defensive position, but her eyes were blank and unfocused. There was nothing of Sen behind them.
What now? If you wish to kill me, you must kill her first.
Damn it, taking hostages, Sanan, that's low.
Fool, you really think one girl is enough to stop me?
He was going to kill her? I threw myself toward Kazuma, screaming. Kazuma, no! Don't kill her!
You don't know what you're saying. For a true demon to be controlled by an imposter like this, The humiliation would be unbearable. She has lost her pride. I don't want to do this, but death is the only release for her now.
You don't know that there could be a cure.
You want to be like that, fine. But you don't get to decide what matters in someone else's life.
I mean, what if we killed Sanan? If you killed the head vampire, maybe she could get back to normal? Or at least not be controlled.
You humans can never understand a demon's pride. Now stand aside before I kill you too.
Heisuke and Kazuma glared at one another, their jaws grinding furiously.
Well, well, fighting amongst ourselves, are we?
His voice grated like nails on a chalkboard, but he would have to wait. I ran towards Sen. Sen, don't you recognize me? You are... Chizuru? That's right, Sen. There was at least something left of Sen. Sanan hadn't destroyed her entirely. Fight it, Sen. Suddenly I felt something hot in my chest. No! What? My throat was full of something. I could barely speak. Blood filled my mouth and splattered out on the ground. My vision had gone dark, and my body felt numb. All I could hear was Sanan's insane, vicious laughter. Heisuke's unintelligible yelling. I could hear Heisuke calling out to me, but I couldn't tell what he was saying. I'm so sorry, Heisuke. Game over. Didn't even notice that was on the menu. Darned it. Let's see here. Okay. Alright, so that was our first bad ending, and we've got 2 more endings to... So, let's move on to the next ending by... Alright, come on. Going back to save number 1. And this time, we give him blood. Sanan had been right about one thing. I couldn't possibly understand the pain Heisuke was feeling. I wasn't the Fury. All I could do was watch him suffer. No, I could do more than that. My path was clear. You said you wouldn't drink blood, but... I'm sorry, Heisuke.
What are you?
The pain was so great he could barely speak. I didn't respond. Instead, I drew my kodachi and slid the blade across my arm.
What the hell are you doing?
San had said something to me a while ago. He said that my blood, my demon blood, might be able to suppress the Fury bloodlust.
I've heard that too, but nobody knows if it's really true. I can't let you do this.
Come on, it's just a little blood. I'm not giving you all the blood in my body. It's just a small donation. I can't bear to watch you suffer any longer. If he had to drink blood to live, then I wanted it to be my blood. My arm shook as I held it out to him. Please, I'm always being protected. Just once I want to help someone. The blood dripped from my arm like thick red tears. For a long moment, Heisuke simply stared at it, then finally he nodded.
I feel like a real jerk doing this, but... Thanks, Chizuru.
Don't mention it. We fought as best we could, but it wasn't enough. Before long, the magistrate's office was in flames, and we were forced to retreat. Even that was a near failure as well. The Imperial Army's weapons were far more advanced than anything we'd seen before, and we didn't know how to counter them. Our retreat degenerated into chaos, and Heisuke and I found ourselves separated from the rest of the Shinsengumi. Again. There was no way for us to know who else might have survived, but we both knew— Oh, I got a forward, duh! Sorry. I thought that all sounded familiar. And hear the same choice, you don't have to act tough. And give him blood once again. I pulled out my sword and drew it across my arm. Here, Heisuke, drink this! New picture. The pain had brought Heisuke to his knees, so when he reached up to take my hand, I was struck with the sudden realization that he looked like a man begging a priest for forgiveness. I felt his lips touch my wrist. Ow! His tongue felt strange against the wound on my arm, and my first instinct was to pull away. But I didn't. If this was all it took to take away his pain, then a little discomfort on my part was nothing. He drank ravenously, and tiny droplets of fresh blood trickled down his lips and chin. At last he seemed to have had his fill, and he sat back, his eyes clearer than they had been before. Had the bloodlust passed?
Man, not again. Sorry about that, Chizuru.
Oh, it's not a problem at all. I'll heal right up. If this makes you hurt less, then I'll do it as many times as I have to.
You're not real bright, are you? Even if it heals, it still hurts.
I can take it. Yes, it did hurt, but a quick cut on my arm was an easy price to pay if it would end the heart-wrenching agony Heisuke suffered under the influence of the bloodlust. I thought about telling him, but decided a smile would suffice. I could just pretend to be a masochist and say I enjoy it. Now, because of the previous choices made, this battle here with Sen and Sanan is going a little different. So, let's see where that goes. Both men launched themselves forward with a roar. I could feel the rage coming off of Kazuma in waves, like heat from a fire. I wanted nothing more than to run and hide where he would never find me.
Well, you're awfully angry, aren't you? I think you'll probably kill me if I don't do something. So, do something, Princess Fury. Kill them!
She looks in pain. She's fighting it. I will never yield to the likes of you. Her hair was soaked with sweat, and her face was pale and waxy. A hand clawed desperately at her chest, but Sen's eyes were full of fury and fixed immovably on Sanan. The pain she was in looked nigh unbearable. Just looking at her made my own heart ache in sympathy. Sanan could never be forgiven for this.
Ah, you remain conscious, I see. Well, that will make your inevitable defeat much more satisfying. I suppose I should have known a demon princess would be somewhat more resilient, not like this rabble.
Rabble, rabble, rabble. He gestured carelessly with one hand, and more furies than I could count crept from the shadows. Kazuma, take care of them. They appeared on the roof of the mansion, from behind the walls, through windows, everywhere. Has he been making lots more furies without telling us?
The Fury Core.
It looks as if I'll have to wait a bit longer before my demon princess is ready to become a Fury bride.
You're going to run away? Damn it! Move it, jerks!
Oh, that's pointless, you know. They won't listen to you. But they won't listen to anyone. Well, anyone but me.
Their faces showed neither the mindless hunger of bloodlust nor the set expressions of warriors. Instead, there was nothing. Flat, unfocused eyes stared back at Heisuke with no more emotion than they might show for a stone. Are they ghouls? He's a vampire controlling ghouls? Sanan grinned and giggled to himself, while Kazuma growled and ground his teeth.
Your laugh is annoying. Your pathetic creations won't stop me. I doubt they'll even slow me down. Soon you'll feel my sword in your throat. I'd love to see you try.
Sen had gone nearly limp from exhaustion. Sanan picked her up with a single hand and took a step back. The wall of furies closed in front of them, and they disappeared from view.
Well, I look forward to our encounter in the Kingdom of Furies.
We are gonna prevent that kingdom.
Damn it, get out of my way, you filth!
I started to run after them, but stopped myself. Anything I did would only make things more difficult for Heisuke and Kazuma.
Chizuru, stay there!
But Sen is... When the fight began, and Sanan's laughter and my voice were both drowned out by the sound of sword on sword. Oh, then the fight was... Sen! I knew it lasted barely minutes, but when the battle finally ended, I felt as if it had been hours since we'd seen Sanan and Sen. The ground was littered with dead furies. Heisuke's shoulders drooped, and Kazuma slammed his fist into a wall over and over, cursing with each blow.
Damn that fake! How dare he outwit me!
He said something about a kingdom up north. What the hell was he talking about?
Did he find my homeland? I too wonder what Sanan was planning, and what he would do with Sen. Sen. For the time being, though, all I could do was pray that she was safe. Oh, poor Sen. Sacrifice choice. Chapter 6. August 1868. Just as Hijikata had predicted, the Koyo Regulatory Company met with bitter defeat at Kofu Castle. Even after facing the deadly carnage of a modern gun battle, Kondo refused to change. Stubborn man.
This was the final straw for Harada and Nagakura, and after Kofu, they turned their backs on the Shinsengumi. When had it begun? Bit by bit, the captains I met back in Kyoto were going away. Following on the heels of their victory at Kofu, the Imperial armies spread their influence into Edo, driving the Shinsengumi north once again. Nagakura and Harada had left. Okito was still trying to fight off his disease. Inoue and Yamazaki had passed away. Why do they have to keep dying? I guess in the sequel, maybe Yamazaki's going to end up taking the Water of Life. But even the far north wasn't safe. We were surrounded, and Kondo was captured. Kondo wished to commit honorable suicide when we were surrounded, but Hijikata convinced him to surrender instead, hoping that perhaps he could survive. With attention diverted by the chief's surrender, the rest of us were able to escape, but despite Hijikata's best efforts to have his sentence commuted or removed, Kondo was executed. Though the Shinsengumi had lost their chief and many of their comrades, they continued to push forward under their new leader, Toshizo Hijikata. Perhaps they did it out of a desire to honor what their friends and companions had fought for, or perhaps because there was simply no other choice. Whatever the reason, it suited my intentions fine. The foremost concern on my mind and Heisuke's was the location of Sanan, and by extension Sen. As we moved north, we heard frequent rumors of brutal murders like the ones we'd heard of in Kyoto and Edo. Men and women of all ages have been slaughtered indiscriminately, their bodies sliced to ribbons. From time to time, we actually came across these corpses ourselves. They confirmed that we were on Sanan's trail, but they were hardly a pleasant sight. Eventually, our travels took us to the home of the Aizu clan. Aizu was a powerful domain to the northeast, led by Katamori Matsudaira, a former Kyoto military commissioner. They were also one of the few domains that the Shinsengumi counted among their allies. We spoke with them upon our arrival, and it was decided that the Shinsengumi would fight under Katamori Matsudaira in several battles to come. We were given rooms in a house in the town surrounding Shirokawa Castle. Later that night, Hijikata sent for Heisuke and myself.
Come on, don't you think these look kind of weird? They're tight in all the wrong places.
I agree, they should have stuck with their old uniforms. Style doesn't make any difference in battle, unless it restricts you when you really need to move more. And plus, Heisuke looks terrible with short hair. For a moment, I didn't even recognize him.
Hey, Chizuru, you listening?
The voice was the same, but his appearance was different. Very different. It's just a haircut, come on.
Hey, Hijikata, do I look funny?
That matters. If we're going to be using guns, Western clothes are better. Why are you asking me anyway?
Why would it be easier to use guns in this than it would to be in, kimono or whatever? Any other clothes. A gun should be easy to use in any clothes.
Well, Chizuru seems to have gone into shock. I figure I must look pretty hideous.
No, that wasn't it at all. Everyone had gotten new uniforms after coming to Aizu. No, this was because of Heisuke's hair. Yeah, exactly. He'd always kept it long before, so to see him like this was something of a shock. Still, it wasn't all bad. In fact, it was almost sexy. Oh, Chizuru, you have terrible taste. I totally disagree with you.
You say something?
She's warring in her head at the moment. He grinned at me and I blushed bright red. Oh, no, nothing at all. It looks really good.
Yeah? Well, if you think so, that's good enough for me.
He flashed me another grin, and then set to loosening his sleeves and cuffs in what I confess was a rather showy manner. I kept sneaking glances at him out of the corner of my eye until Hijikata sighed exasperatedly.
Enough showing off. I called you here for a reason.
Oh yeah? So what's up?
We've got a problem. Take a look at this. Letter from Sendai to the Aizu.
Heisuke and I took the letter and read it.
And this is from Sendai to a bunch of domains. Why, we must not yield to this new regime?
So they're telling the other domains that the new government's pressuring them, but they aren't going to give in, and that we should fight against the Imperial Army as long as we can?
Close enough. The Sendai's made an alliance with the Aizu, and the other Northerns called the Great Northern Alliance. This letter is telling everybody to fight to the last man, They'll probably send it to everyone in the Alliance.
Hijikata, did you just bring us in here to show us a letter? I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but this sounds like good news for us.
Hijikata frowned.
The letter is fine. Look at the end of it again.
Therefore, it is our duty as patriots to oppose this new...
He froze, and I saw his eyes widen. The smile that had played about his face suddenly disappeared. What's wrong, Heisuke? When he spoke, it wasn't to me, and his voice sounded strangely hollow. Signed, Keisuke Sanan, retainer of the Sendai domain. Oh, Sanan. Sanan, the man who abducted Sen and told us he meant to found an empire of furies in the north, was now an official in the service of the Sendai domain?
Don't know what he did, but he must have managed to finagle his way into the Sendai higher-ups. The furies in Sanan are a problem we created. Now they're a problem we need to uncreate.
I have to go, for Sen's sake, but... Hijikata nodded.
Yes, we're on the Aizu's payroll now. We can't just run off and do whatever we want without their say-so. And even if we did, the Shinsengumi heading into Sendai as an army might cause problems between the Aizu and Sendai.
He didn't mention it, but we both knew that Hijikata had hurt his leg in a battle earlier, and had placed Saito in temporary command of the Shinsengumi's frontline forces. We all wanted to stop Sanan, but the Shinsengumi was effectively immobilized. What were you going to do? Heisuke's bitter laugh made me look up.
I get it. You called me in here because you want me to go to Sendai, right, Hijikata? As far as the rest of the world knows, Sanan and I are dead. Send a dead man after a dead man, huh?
You don't have to say it like that. Lately, Heisuke had become increasingly bitter when speaking of himself. I wasn't sure when exactly it had started, but I suspected it was around the time of Sen and Kimikiku's revelation about the source of the Furies' powers. A frown would darken his face whenever someone mentioned Furies. It made me sad to see him that way.
It's alright, Chizuru. He can say what he wants. Doesn't change the fact that I'm ordering him to go to take care of Sanan.
Yeah, well, I've got a little unfinished business with that bastard anyway.
Me too.
Orders received, Commander. I'll be heading out as soon as possible.
He was suffering. Anyone could see it. Every time the bloodlust took him, he was reminded once again of the fact that he was no longer human, and that his life would end all too soon. But this negative behavior was so unlike him. Heisuke, wait!
Don't, Chizuru. Let him be.
But he needs my blood along the way, and I need to rescue Sen, because she offered her body to save me. The commander's voice was calm, almost casual, but there was no mistaking his words for a request. His face was drawn, and his eyes were sunken and tired. The war was draining his spirit, and sending Heisuke to Sendai was yet another burden he would clearly rather not bear. You poor man, Hijikata.
I can't send men from our fighting divisions. We can't spare them, and I might piss someone off. Heisuke's the only Fury who's been publicly declared dead. He's my only choice.
There's really no other option? You give the water of life to Okita and see if he can go.
You think I haven't looked for one? No, it's just him. Besides, he's probably the only man who might actually stand a chance against Sanan.
He would be alone. He would go to Sendai alone, suffer the bloodlust alone, and fight Sanan alone. Perhaps he would die alone. Please let me go with him. I owe Sen. I have to save her. And I want to help Heisuke too. Hijikata stared at me, his eyes piercing and his face unreadable. I stared back with as much intensity as I could muster myself. At last, he let out a long sigh and shook his head.
We kept you locked up because we were trying to find Koto, and we didn't want you finding out why. Not much point now. Well, hasn't been much point for a while.
Then, I can go with Heisuke?
Yeah. Sorry about all this. Consider yourself free to leave whenever you want.
I laughed, then caught myself. The thought of the cold man we called the demon apologizing for anything was just strangely amusing. Well, I haven't really thought of myself as locked up here for a long time. I did feel that way at first, but the longer I stayed, the more this place started to be, well, home.
Feeling pretty frank, are we?
Perhaps it's the influence of the Shinsengumi. Hijikata and I looked at one another for a moment, smiling. I hadn't seen him smile like that since before Kondo passed away. I stood up and moved toward the door. Just before I left, Hijikata spoke, his voice low. "Take care of Heisuke." That's what I'm going for. Well, and Sen. I stepped through the door, and Hijikata was gone. Suddenly, I felt very lonely. I made my way to Heisuke's room to find him leaning against the wall, his hands clasped to his chest. His hair was pure white. Heisuke? It was the bloodlust.
Damn it. Again?
My hands were shaking, but this had to be done. I was going with him. There was no turning back now. I believe I have to give him blood again. I hope I'm not screwing up here, because I kind of lost my place on the walkthrough a little. I didn't hesitate. When I thought of how much pain he was in, I barely even felt the blade as it sliced neatly through my skin. Here, Heisuke, drink.
But...
He hesitated, trying desperately to look away from the blood slowly dripping down my arm. You have to! It'll all be for nothing if you die now.
You're right. I can't die yet. Not until... Sorry, Chizuru.
Like an animal tending to a wound, he began to slowly lick the blood from my arm. The more he drank, the steadier his breath became. I could see the pain fade from his face. A part of me felt happy then. He was suffering, true, but in some small way I had been able to help. When at last the pain had faded, he spoke, his voice weak and hoarse.
Sorry. It helped. You staying here, I mean.
If it happens again, I don't want you to be afraid to ask me for help, okay? After all, I've decided to go to Sendai with you. I wanted to be by his side wherever he went, Sendai or anywhere else. My mouth turned back up in a smile as I looked at him, but the next words he said broke my heart.
No, you have to stay here, Chizuru.
Oh, don't you tell me that. I'm going to use my terrible ninja skills to track you. What?
Here, you have to stay here.
I hadn't misheard. For a moment I was silent, and then anger and sadness swept over me like a storm. Why? If anyone should stay put, it should be you. Look at how much pain you're already in. If you do find Sanan and fight him, you'll have to use your fury power, and then...
And what? I'll turn to ash? You really think that matters? I've been like this for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if I crumbled into ash tomorrow.
There it was, the anxiety and fear that had hovered beneath the surface ever since he learned the truth of every fury's fate, given words at last. But it made him feel no better to finally speak them. If anything, it only hurt him more. His shoulders slumped, and he stared down at the floor.
I can stop Sanan. I have to. Hell, I already died at Abara no Koji. It's already a miracle that I'm talking to you right now. I'm a dead man, so I might as well take Sanan with me when I go.
Oh no, I forgot to save it at the right time. Oh well, this is, Darn it, I had messed up that last choice then. I don't know if I'm gonna get the same ending or not. Alright, well, let's try and see. I have to say, how can you say that? How can you say that?
Well, I'm gonna die no matter what I do, so I figure it's better to die fighting.
Isn't it better to die in my arms? The crack of my palm across his face echoed through the room. Take that! My hand burned where I struck him. My throat felt tight. Heisuke, you're still alive. His head was facing to the side where my blow had thrown it. The look on his face was one of shock. I glared at him. But you want to just give up like that? Isn't your life worth anything to you? Aren't your friends worth anything to you? Why would you rather die? Perhaps I could never really understand what Heisuke was going through, and my words were, in reality, callous and cruel. But I couldn't bear to hear him talk about his own life, as if it meant nothing. I don't want to lose you.
Chizuru, you...
I don't want you to give up. I could feel the tears streaming down my face, but I was past caring. There's got to be a way to heal you, to keep you from dying. We can find a way to be together. For several long moments, he was silent. There's some waters up north that can help us out.
We don't have time. I'm practically dead already. Why are you doing this? I've given up. It's all over. Why can't you see that?
Well, don't cry on me, Heisuke.
For all we know, my legs could turn into ash tomorrow.
Then I'll carry you.
And what happens when we try to grab our future and my arms crumble away into nothing?
Then I'll do it for you. I tried to smile to reassure him. Why are we fading to black? After a long silence, Heisuke turned to look at me, and his face was the gentle, friendly one I'd known for so long. Not even the water of life could take it away.
I'm not still that much of a kid that I'm going to start feeling better just because someone tells me to, alright? And I don't really think there's any way to save a Fury. But I think I can believe in you, and you seem to think there's a way. I don't know when I might die.
He reached toward me, and I felt his hand delicately wipe the tears from my cheek. He smiled.
But I figure I can live a little longer, for you.
For me. We left Shirokawa under the cover of night. The forest that separated the Aizu and Sendai domains spread out before us, dark, thick, and foreign. There was no way for us to know how much influence Sanan had managed to gain, but once we entered Sendai, we would be in his territory. We decided it was best to try and enter unnoticed, but...
What are you doing here?
Probably the same thing you are.
I could ask you the same thing.
The tension between them was so high, each man was practically throwing off sparks. Just calm down, Heisuke. And Kazuma, you didn't come all this way just so you could snark at us, did you?
No, I did not. I came here to kill that vile imposter and take back what is rightfully mine. You are correct that I have no time to play with you.
So he thinks Sen can be saved? Fixed?
Play, you arrogant piece of...
Please, both of you, calm down. If we make too much noise, they're going to find us. Nothing good would come of fighting each other, and both of them seemed to grudgingly accept it. There were fierce scowls all around, but their hands didn't touch their swords. There was no telling how long that awkward truce might last, though. I sighed. Oh, Heisuke. Alright, actually, we're gonna end it there. Heisuke, chill, man. I thought we just ironed things out here, unless somebody just appeared behind us and I don't see him. We'll see. So, hope to see you in the next episode or some of my other ones, and I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye-bye, everybody.